Welcome, everyone, to our third Thursday for January.
Oh, Kate. Hi. So this is our first one of 2023. I just realized that, Erin. Yeah. Happy New Year, everybody.
Or sad New
Happy
Year,
New Year.
whatever kind of New Year you want to have is fine with us. Just glad. Sweet. Glad
Oh
they're
my gosh, look at all these lovely faces.
and names. Hi, Miss Misty. Hi, Nicole. Hi, Christine.
Hi,
Hi.
Kimmy.
Welcome, everybody. We'll officially get started in a few more seconds. We're just letting people pile in.
Oh, how's everybody's day? Does everybody have their teacup? Look at, I'm gonna.
Oh yeah,
This
show
is
him.
this is the teacup Erin Morelli got me for Christmas
It's
because
got
I
all kinds of
love that.
dates on it.
who has not lopsided boobs? I want to know. Because if you breastfed your baby, you got lopsided boobs.
Oh my God, those are boobs on your cup, Erin. That's the best cup ever.
Yep.
Boobies. Mhm.
Always. Mine is my great grandmother's dragon china set, and I'm double
That's
fisting it.
beautiful.
I've got coffee in a cat cup too, so Yeah, thank you. It's really pretty. All right. Well, welcome to our third Thursday Tea Talk. Every month, once a month, we bring on a special guest who works in the death industry in a different type of way, usually in a way that's kind of niche and specialized. So we try to bring somebody on who's interesting and throughout the course of bringing on different people, create a wide breadth of things that we can learn about that maybe aren't as mainstream as our everyday work as death workers. And today we have Sarah Elise with us. I will make her the host in just a minute so that you'll be able to see her face bigger. But Sarah is a previous death school student. She's done a lot of training with us. And, we just connect with some people and we're like, we're going to keep these people forever. And she has been one of those for us. So she's a practicing death doula, a death-informed artist. She's going to talk to us today about coming very, very close to the edge of death and pulling herself back and how art transformed that and a little bit of alchemy involved, uh, among other things. She's also a massage therapist and a healer and an advocate for women everywhere. And Sarah, if you would introduce yourself a little further, please.
Hi, thanks, Erin. Well, I think you did perfect. That's all of the stuff I'm doing right now. So I am a trained death doula. I trained with y'all, and I also trained with International End of Life Death Doula Association. Very, very proud of my death wives. I found it to be really special training. And let's see, I'm a licensed massage therapist. I've been that for many years. I'm also a CNA. I've been that since 2010. And an artist and a minister, a universally ordained minister, ministering to my community in whatever capacity possible. So that's it. That's what I'm doing. That's
Yeah.
all the shit.
That's all the shit. And one thing I will say about you, really genuinely, is that probably every interaction I've had with you, every class that we had with you, every time we've hung out with you since then, you have expanded my thought. You have, I've learned from you. The way that you approach things and the way that you think about things is expansive and beautiful. So we're going to let some other people in on that today. I hope you guys can hear me okay. I feel like my
Feel that same way about y'all.
Well, thank you for being here. All right. Well, then we'll jump in we're going to talk a little bit about breath, the importance of breath and art. And we're going to talk about it through Sarah's firsthand experience with both of them. I'm a birth doula too, or I was a birth doula. I can't really claim it anymore because it's been several years since I've had a birth doula case, but I began doing that work and then transitioned into death work. And the concept of breath is laced throughout so much. And and my personal belief is that life really starts at the first breath. That first breath and then scream of the baby is that life really kind of onboarding and settling in. And then as death doulas, we see, the last breath as the exit. Breath is the usher, right? That brings us in, and then also that brings us out. And so Sari gifted us this gorgeous painting I'm about to show you. I'm about to pull it up here. I'm just going to tell the story. Would you rather I show it at the end or now? Is it better if I
No,
show
you
it
can
at the
show it
end?
now. Show it
Okay.
now.
Okay. All right. So look at this angel of death. Okay, after she tells the story, I'm going to show it again and zoom in on the parts that are related to breath and how it saved her life. So, Sari, without further ado.
So that painting is actually called, I think, Lamentations in Grief or something like that. And really what it's called is Liberation is a Ragged Wing. And that really comes from, okay, so what happened? Here's what happened. In 2018, I was traveling with my kids. We had decided that we were going to come out of the public school system, which was also a choice that was made out of a matter of life and death. The public school system was not conducive to sustaining the life of my children. So some of us have kids, or some of us were kids who certain systems feel like death, or even we have statistically a lot of kids are driven to suicide. We lose kids to the compulsory way of educating that happens here. And there's a brutal history to that anyway. So, but anyways, that's like a whole nother death story. So we were fleeing and also diving into a new way of schooling, which I didn't know what the fuck I was doing with that at all. I was just like, we're winging it. So we started out on a road trip to Key West, Florida, because my son actually was like very curious, and he was like, he loves maps, and he was like, Mama, how far south can we like drive in a car? Like, how far south is it possible to drive in our car right now without leaving the country? And I was like, well, I could get you to I think 80 miles to Cuba, honey. So he was like, no. So I was like, hell yeah, pack up your little backpack and let's go. So that's really what we did. We were headed out to Key West, and then we were going down south. We stopped in Johns Island, which is in South Carolina near Charleston, and to visit my mom. And she had a little apartment there. And when we were at the aquarium, I got really sick. We took the kids to the aquarium. I got extremely sick. I thought it was like the flu or something. I wasn't sure. But then we got home and I was like, Mom, I feel really sick. Like something's off, bad off. So I drove myself off the island into Charleston and went to the hospital, and they were like, you need an emergency blood transfusion, like right now. It's a matter of life and death. And I thought, well, okay, what's the address to where I need to go for a blood transfusion, y'all? And they were like, no, like you need to go in an ambulance or something. We can't let you leave. And I was like, well, how much is that going to cost? And they were like, well, we don't know. I mean, it's like an insurance thing. And I was like, no, I don't have very good insurance. And that's a whole nother problem. That's a whole nother death story, isn't it? And then, so anyways, needless to say, I ended up in the hospital getting a blood transfusion, and everything happened so quickly, as I think probably most people here know. When you are interfacing immediately with death by whatever means that death is arriving, things do tend to happen really quickly, and you're kind of like, okay, this is just what I'm doing right now. This is what I'm doing right now. I'm using this. Right now, there are strangers' blood being dropped into my vein, drop by drop, and it's taking 9 hours for this to go through. And I just kind of like began navigating the grief really right then in the moment. And I don't know why. I mean, it could be because I have years of mind body work or experience that I that I did that, or that I was motivated to do that, to really be ritualistic, but I am also just a ritualistic person. And so really art and ritual do save my ass every time and keep me alive. So I remember getting this blood transfusion, and it was like drop by drop by drop, I was looking at this blood drop into me. And I remember thinking like, wow, I wonder like what all the people are that are in this bag, like all the different people that have donated this blood, and like that they really are like a part of me now, and I'm a part of them, and we are of each other's blood, quite literally. And the beauty of that interconnection, the beauty of the obliteration of the feeling of separation really was profound to me. And so as a ritual, I made sure that I didn't disassociate in that moment, which I've had years of other moments of disassociation, and that's very real, and it's something that needs to be honored and loved as well. But for that moment, I was really becoming aware of that there is a true psychology to ritual, that there is a true mind-body practice to really staying alive and embodiment. And so that was like the first moment of that I was really bringing it home, like in the moment. Before, it had always been that I was like coming back into embodiment with grief, trauma, and moving forward with resilience in like post-therapy sessions of like a traumatic event or whatever. But this, I was like, wow, I'm it right now.
Uh-oh, did she freeze? Erin, are you frozen too? Uh-oh. Okay, well, I guess we'll wait for her to return. Oh wait, I see that she's here, but she's not here. It's a mystery.
Can you hear me
You guys
now?
aren't frozen to me.
Yeah.
I can see.
Okay,
I think
you
I'm
can
back.
She was
You're back.
disassociating for a little bit, briefly.
Daily, no. Hi, Emily. Emily Miller here was a guest of ours. If you have not caught up, she runs I always mess up, the Colorado Burial Preserve. Yeah, yay,
thanks for
I
having
said
me.
it right. Yeah. Well, Erin, do you want to just chit chat until she comes back?
Oh, wait, did we also lose
Yeah.
Zeri?
Yes.
Oh, I'm behind. I'm sorry, guys. My internet kicked me off. So I guess, did that kick her off too?
Yeah.
I
No,
think
because everybody
so.
else is here.
Well,
All right.
maybe.
I'll message her and tell her to come back on. And in the meantime,
Oh, here
Ew.
she is. I'm letting her in.
Okay.
Well, let's see. You guys, Mercury in retrograde like just ended. So why is this still happening?
Hi, Britta. I don't know. My internet's been unstable for like a week. I don't know what's going on.
There she is.
Sorry, did we freeze up?
Yes, but we're back.
Okay, I'm not sure where I was, but I think I was talking about blood.
Yes.
Okay, so that was an active ritual, and I was coming back into my body with the blood transfusion. And then later they were like, well, you're internally bleeding, of course, we know that, but now we've got to find out why. So they started looking for why I was internally bleeding, which eventually, and that was a brutal process, took about a week of them doing every sort of way of trying to find what was happening as possible. And then eventually they found like a mass on my small intestine. Well, they found pancreas actually. So they were like, we could biopsy it, but either way, it needs to come out. If we biopsy it, it's pretty dangerous to do for a biopsy, like because of, the anatomy that we have to go through there. So we might as well just take it out. And I was like, well, fucking just take it out. So they took it out and came back and told me that it was a really rare type of cancer. And So that was actually a terrifying surgery to have, because we didn't know if they were going to be removing a really large portion of my pancreas. They knew probably they would be removing a lot of my intestinal tract and all of those things. So, but how that that first piece of artwork that you were showing came about was that in the recovery room, after surgery, that full open surgery. So I had like staples and stitches from sternum to navel. And y'all know, like breath is so vitally important to everything. And when you come out from a major surgery, they have, your breath, your lungs capacity to breathe, and to be able to get your breath back. And it can be excruciatingly anxiety inducing and painful to actually get your breath back. And when you have a situation where your breath is being literally taken from you, it is a real fight in terms of staying embodied, and so anyways, I recall being in a lot of pain and I would dread every time the nurses would come in with that, I forget what the word is. I forget what we call it now. All y'all medical, what is it? We breathe into it and the ball goes up. Anyways,
Yeah.
Incentives barometer.
A
yes,
spirometer.
yes.
Barometer.
Yeah.
Yes, totally. I can't believe I had a brain fart. So every time they would come in, I'd be like, oh, fuck, here we go again, and I was bitter and I couldn't get, and they were like, you have to strengthen your capacity right now. And that stuck with me. You have to expand and strengthen your capacity right now, because that's what, like, that vastness that we are is what this work and what this love is all about, really, as far as what I learned in that experience. And so I would draw a lot on these napkins with this like crappy little pen that I found in the hospital room. And I had this one nurse that was really great. And it was a guy, and he was just an angel, really. He was an angel. And he came in and he was the only one that I really liked talking to, because everybody else was kind of being, I don't know, I was just in a shit mood. I was in a shit mood and dying. So like, I didn't like anybody. And, but I liked him, and he was funny. And he said, oh, I really like your drawings. You're an artist. And I remember telling him, well, I don't know what I am, but I am dying. That's for sure. That's what it feels like. Or at that moment I certainly was. And, he was like, yeah, but nothing ever happens just by itself. It's always everything all at once. And liked that, the things that he said, we really resonated with each other. And then the next day he came in and he had got me this like 18 by 24 inch pad of like multi-purpose paper and these watercolors and paints and some nice ink pens. And I just cried and cried. It was the sweetest thing, because I was very alone. I'm a single parent, and I had just come out of a pretty intense situation intimately, and that ended up getting worse right after. So, but anyways, it was a really touching moment of connection. And I started to to strengthen my lungs. I was like, well, I don't want to do that fucking breathing apparatus thing, because it's boring, it's not glamorous, and it hurts, and I'm frustrated. And so he was like, well, you got to figure something out to get your breath back. And I was like, okay. And so I took the straw out of my ice chips and water, and I started blowing through the straw to blow around the watercolor on the paper. And he was like, I'll take it. That works. You could do that today. And so I just kept doing that. And that's how the wing emerged. And if you can see, when you look at the art in person, you will see a very obvious raggedness to the wing. And that's because that was painted with my breath. It wasn't painted with a paintbrush or a pen. It was painted with my breath. And in every single one of those breaths was an immense amount of pain, fear, doubt, separation, and grief. And then I just kept doing it and doing it. And that angel of death is who emerged. And I had seen that, but I had seen also this figure. And I do see those often. And I call them kindred shadows instead of kindred spirits. I don't know. That's just what it is. And so that is really, that's exactly how that painting came to be. And it was, and then later when I found y'all, when I found Death Wives, the reason why I really was like, I have to take this course, because I had taken other death work, or end of life. I'd never ever say end of life. I'm a professional. I'm a mind body professional. I'm in across industries, and I never say end of life. It feels very stuffy to me. It feels weird. It feels like I'm abandoning death, which I view as not just a place, but also a deity, a spirit, and a whole space that is not separate from me. So I never say end of life. I'm never going to stop saying death. I'm never going to abandon death. I can't remember what my point was. Oh, so when I came to y'all, it was that I was on this journey of trying to figure out how to be my own death doula, because I death one and there wasn't any. And so I was like, I'm going to have to figure out how to plan my own funeral. And I'm going to have to figure out how to address questions like, Mama, what are we going to do if you die? Because there is literally not anybody else, which I was like, well, fuck, I'm going to have to get some community really fast here. Like, so all of these things, that's how I really, but we are death workers and we are doulas. Like, as far as I'm concerned, doulaship is a practice. It's a way of life. It's it's like a way of being in constant relationship to literally everything that is around you. And so that's how I ended up with y'all and Death Wives, and because I had to learn how to be my own doula.
Whew. That's a lot. Well, I mean, I feel like, being me, I've had my funeral plan since I was 19. Like, and my funeral plan really hasn't changed at all, surprisingly. I think I've always had a very deep relationship with death, not necessarily end of life. I kind of liked what you said. I never really thought about it that way, because it does sound very finite and stuffy and like, okay, here's the end. But really, it's like, and here's the next doorway, and here's the beginning. In a way. I always see it as really the beginning. Like, we're kind of in this holding space and we're doing the thing. We're not really sure how long we get to be in this little holding space. And then it's like off to the next big adventure, which is more like home. I love the certain, some communities call it a homecoming versus a funeral. And I love that, because that's really what it is. It's a return to death, and then to whatever space comes next. But I was going to ask, maybe this is personal, have you planned your funeral, and have you ever talked to your kids about your funeral, and what is that like?
Yeah, but we keep switching up. So it's like kind of a little fun now, because I'm like, we keep switching it up. Well, my first choice would be a sky burial, but I don't think that, I'm not sure if we can swing allowing the vultures to come in, the coyotes to come and tear me apart and take me back to the wild. I'm not sure how I'm going to pull that one off, but yeah, I do have it planned. It's a changing plan though. It's a working plan, but we've got it pretty good right now. So I do want like I want to be burned on a pyre. That speaks really deeply to my pagan soul. But then I also am like, we'll see, we'll see what it's like in a few more months when I get more involved in water cremation. It is a living death plan, Nicole.
That's what I was just gonna say, a living death plan. Do you guys have water cremation there? Are there any water crematories?
No, but I'm looking at leasing one.
Good. I mean, I think that's great. And we're learning more, here in Colorado, we have Crestone, which has the open air pyre. But thanks to the natural funeral up north, I found out that really you can do this anywhere. You just have to have a burn permit, and on the death certificates, the GPS location of where this cremation is taking place. And I think if people don't know, there's many cultures that believe that's how the soul is released. That is how we go. And in our conventional ways here in America, we literally put people in a retort, which is made with brick, and they're stuck in it. And we're the only culture that really went that route, England too. But I love the openness, and I don't know, there's deepness in that. Why would you choose open air pyre?
Because I'm a fiery ass Sagittarius, Taurus, Aquarian moon with an Aquarium. I don't know, and I'm a pagan, just a pure fucking pagan love song. So I think that's why it speaks to me.
And then I have one more question. I don't know where Erin went. I think she lost her internet again.
I mean, I could just see y'all dancing around that pyre.
Yeah, that's what I love, intentional funerals. And I think that is something that whether you are actively dying or not, I mean, we're all actively dying. Sorry, guys. I hate to be the one that's telling you this, but we're all dying. But to really put the intention of yourself, because putting yourself and being like, that's how we mourn you. That's how we grieve you, is to what has this person created, because this is what reflects them as a person. And there's just so much, I don't know, as my funeral director self, there's so much lack of that. There's so much disconnect of like, this is just what we do, versus knowing that we have this time to plan. And even if it changes all the time, like you said, you're still putting your intentions toward that. What do I want that to look like? And that itself is such a powerful thing. I mean, whether you're contemplating your end of life or not, like, it is what it is, right?
It is what it is.
Yeah. So do you do anything in your community to, how about this? I think I want to open up with this, what you opened up your conversation with us, and how you open up your intake with clients when you're doing this body work and breath work. So do you want to ask this question, and then I'm going to open it up?
How does death feel in your body today?
How does death feel in your body today?
And do you want to touch it?
Yeah. Does anybody feel like sharing? I mean, that's a pretty deep thing.
Yeah, it's very intimate work.
Yeah. And I mean, body work and breath work is very intimate work. And again, there's kind of some disconnect there of like, what does that really look like? And you're focusing on what does that feel like for you? Where is that death in your body?
Right, because it's again the obliteration of the separation, right? Which I believe to be the root of most of the human suffering that we are all experiencing. Mm-hmm. And the real fucking kicker about that is that the root of that suffering is actually an illusion because interconnectivity is like so profoundly real.
I agree that that's our greatest reason for suffering, and the reason that most people have a loneliness or a worthiness kind of core wound, because we believe that we're separate and isolated in these islands, these disconnected islands. And I think both, you know, spiritually in the oneness way, but also historically in the kind of lack of small communities way, right? Our communities have gotten so big, which has got a lot of blessings to it. If we didn't have these digital communities, we wouldn't have this gathering of people right here. But there's also this, like, it's not how we're designed. We're designed to intimately know and care for, you know, maybe the 30 people in our nearest proximity. I think that the lack of that creates this universal ache.
Yeah.
So how do you work in your community doing this death contemplation almost within life?
I trick everybody into think they're coming to the spa. No, I'm just kidding. No, yeah, in a lot of ways. So it looks like it's very emergent, you know, it's a daily emerging practice. So, but right now, and so it kind of it weaves in and out of, right? So these multiple modalities, right? So, like, you know, ministerial services are a wide range of things. Doula, what I call doulaship is, or doulaing is like a lot of things. It's it's midwifery of energy, you know, and presence. And so I'll use every single tool and I am going to hold your hand in whatever industry I want to, or brings you here. And nothing's going to stop me. Like, you know, if that takes body work, if you're called to body work, I mean, everybody knows when they come, you know, to me for massage therapy that they're like, you might go to one spa to like escape, but when you come to Sarah, you're coming because you've found yourself at a place where there's nowhere else to run. And like, it's going to be okay. Even if it's not okay, it's going to be okay.
And that's a good segue into another topic we kind of wanted to talk about, which is transformative business structures, and how if you are working within, I mean, probably any healing space, but specifically death work, it doesn't have to look like another business might look. In fact, we're kind of throwing out the business models with this. So you were telling us before we got on of some examples of how you're doing that, even though it might look like on the surface you're limiting yourself, you're not, because you're aligning yourself, which is always going to be expansive. So what are your thoughts on that? Having a business that does not fit into any squares, but it's successful, right? And you're not necessarily trying to appeal to everyone. You're loudly being who you are so that the people who need to find you can do that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And my hat's off to y'all for that as well, because I think you very much are doing the exact same thing. So actually, I just found that this is right in front of me on my desk. And you want me just to read it to you? Is that okay? It's a page from my journal.
Yes. I almost wanted to
right
say, if you ever want to share what you shared in death school, so we can all end this crying, that'd be fine too.
When we did a 10-minute meditation funeral for our imposter syndrome, that one?
I think, well, no, it was
what was it?
It was
Aaron, I said when we buried our imposter syndrome.
It was the community funeral, and I can't remember. I mean, it took us deep into the roots.
Oh yeah, I think that's the same thing. We did. It was. I think I ended up doing a guided meditation together with you guys, and like it kind of like I did. I that came to me really from our death school experience. But then also there was like some weird intuitive arisals, right? Like things that come up intuitively, like when you're working collectively with people in intentionally meditative space. And so like, yeah, we ended up burying an aspect. So that's actually great, Lauren, or I can't see y'all on my screen right now.
Yeah,
So
it's Lauren.
okay. So yeah, that's to answer, Erin, you had said, what does that look like in my community? Some of this work, like that is one thing that we do often here, like in this very treatment room, is that like, we combine therapeutic massage with a guided visual meditation experience. And this will provide space for multiple things, but three come up really frequently. One is when you need profound clarity. So there's a specific meditation for profound clarity. And one is for your deepest heart's knowing on a matter. And then the third one is getting to the root, and it is a segue, a doorway for hosting a like 15 to 20 minute funeral for an aspect that you are dealing with in your life right now. It's sometimes an aspect of yourself, or it's an aspect of somebody else, or it's just something that you just did or saw or are dealing with, or it's a thread of your grief. It might not be all of it all at once, but it's some of it. And we put it somewhere.
Yeah.
So
You said something that the community aspect too, of people coming together and what happens. We try to explain, people are like, well, explain death school because it's not like your other classes. I'm like, yeah, it's what you just described. It's people coming together with the intention of coming together, and then what happens in that space. And I always think how powerful that is if each person that comes through one of our courses or anything just creates that in their own community, because there are other people out there. And when those little communities come together, I truly think that it kind of branches out and starts healing other aspects of the community. I don't know where I was going on that, because this kind of was inspired by you.
I think that death school really does do that. I mean, like for our class, it did. I mean, I found that we were across industries, individuals, and with a wide range of grief experiences personally and professionally already. But then there's also this realization that you get where it's like, you know, if you're alive, you're going to die. If you're alive in these times, in our times, you're witnessing death, whether you're accepting that or not, right? These are death ground times, very much so. Which, like, the good news is that also means it's revolutionary times. But yeah, we come together in these ways where it's like we're realizing that you are already a death worker. Like, you don't have to, like, nobody's ever going to arrive. It's the same thing that I tell people when they ask me, like, how did you become an artist? Or when did you know, I'm not an artist because anybody ever told me that I was or bought a painting. I am because everything that I've ever created, I would have died if I did not do it at that moment. Like, if I did not create that in that moment.
Yeah.
And sometimes
that you're speaking to the difference between when we're trying to create something and when something is birthing itself through us and we cannot stop it, right? And so really the work is to get out of our own way and believe in what's happening. And they're two such different energies, like, to the point that I am trying to bring that into my own life as a larger lesson. If I am pushing too much, if I am trying too hard to make something happen, it's probably not the thing that's supposed to happen, because I know that I'm a vessel for these giant ideas to be birthed through, because every magic that's ever happened in my life has been delivered that way, right? So how can we go more in tune with that and allow that? And if, if people are listening, they're like, that's not my experience, like how can they have that experience?
because that's really the way to create. I mean, at least I almost feel like none of my best ideas or creative ideas, they're not things I sat around and cognitively was like, oh, this is a good idea. No, they're like entire thought forms that just dropped into my awareness. And I was like, oh, I better scoop this baby up.
Totally. Somebody actually asked me not that long ago, like, I feel like it was last week. Oh, because I've got of course, y'all, I've got my death wives on the wall, my from graduation, my certificate. I put that right next to my freaking sociology degrees. Okay. You know, and somebody was like, well, gosh, yeah, death wives, they're so cool. I'm like, hell yeah, they are. And they're like, I'm like, those are my people, y'all. We are people. And they're like, what? I wish I knew what their formula was for like education that way or whatever. I was like, I'm pretty sure there's not a formula for that. It's an emerging practice, y'all. That's what deathy people know is that, you know, it's emerging. It's always emerging. And it's like something comes up and it's like, wow, okay, yeah, we need to tap into this. This is asking for us to touch it.
Yes. And I mean, I know there's great men out there, but this is, you said womb to tomb earlier.
Yeah.
And that's always been the woman's role. She's there at the birth, at the womb, and she's there at the tomb. Yeah.
It's womb
Elaborate.
people. It's womb people.
People.
So womb people. So there is something very absolutely unique, undeniably powerful about being a soul in a body, and that body carries a womb. It can never be taken away from any one of us that has that, you know, that power, whether the womb stays in the body or is removed at any point for any reason. That soul still has a womb to tomb knowledge. It is the primordial feminine energy that is massively transformative and magical. And it's what I call true authority.
Yeah.
Oh
In this creative cosmos.
True authority. Okay, last thing, because we're kind of talking about the business model. And one thing that we talk about, especially when we're talking death doulas, is like, we live in a capitalist society. However we feel about that and however we want to shift and change things, that money speaks to people. It is the way that they show that they love you. Sometimes they'll give you thousands of dollars, or it's a power tool for some people, or it's a gift of love, right? And I think death doulas have a really, really hard time of accepting money.
Yeah. There will always be certain things, there will be certain moments where I feel it's just something that, you know, where it's like, this is not there's not a monetary transaction involved in this one right here, right now. There are times when that is inevitably going to come across. And then, yes, we have to be also addressing, you know, we don't want to run away from the structural problems, the fucking system problems here. But transformation also requires money. And money is also a boundary, you know, it's a boundary. You would never tell a doctor or a lawyer or a business executive or, you know, that they should be doing everything that they're doing for free. You know, why would you tell somebody who has dedicated their life and their experiences and their education and put their hands in this work so deeply that they deserve anything less? In fact, we should be able to fucking charge insurance, and easily, for itemized receipts as fucking astronomically high as anybody else can, like, right? Like, I'm a licensed healthcare professional. I have to do all of the shit through the state that anybody else does. I have to maintain licensure. There's a scope of practice. There is standards, you know, there are industry standards, which I think are far too low, and regulation, which I think is far too high.
Yeah. Well,
Oof.
the insurance conversation gets sticky because, of course, we want that for doulas from a compensation perspective and a legitimacy perspective. But then that does bring with it, you know, regulations. You know, they will have a say in how we do things. And we currently live in a pretty Wild West culture, at least here in the US, and specifically in Colorado and a handful of other states. And so we're not
we
trying
want it to stay wild. We want it to stay wild.
Right. We're not trying to over-regulate doulaship to the point that people can't take care of their own communities. That would be counterproductive, really, to the main goal of this being community work and providing access to education so that people can take care of their own family members and their own communities and really democratizing it. So it's a slippery slope because we do measure the legitimacy of things by the credentials. And so we understand that, and we've, you know, stepped a little bit more into it the farther we've gone down this path. But we also have such a resistance to what that means in a larger scale, you know, for people having the freedom to practice this work. So what do you think about that?
Say that last part of the question again.
The you know, the seeming surface, it seems like a contradiction at the surface, that in one way we would love doulas to be more widely hired. We'd love to see them as staff on hospice. We would love to see them paid by insurance, right? So that was kind of where the conversation was going. The other side of that conversation is like, but then that will imply more regulation than we currently have. And so how do we navigate that? We pick one, or do we, you know, is there a third avenue available? And we've been having this conversation for a while, but I'd love to hear what you think.
Yeah, I think where I'm at with it right now, which I reserve the right to changing my opinion as more knowledge comes in.
Always.
Always.
I think where I'm at right now with that, and this goes for across industries to anybody who's listening. I mean, like, if you're doing hair, if you're doing like anything that you're doing, like, but I would say that you are, you know, it is not your individual and sole responsibility to take on accessibility all at once.
Yeah, that's a fair statement.
Your task, hopefully in the work, and I'll speak to our community of death working. The task is to build practices, is to build our practices. However, those practices are being built from our communities, from the people, from the deaths that we are interfacing with, and from our personal front lines with death. Where has death asked you to stand? Where has death asked you to stand? And where has death asked you to hold its hand? And where has death asked you to transform? And that is not something that happens all at once, just like when somebody comes and lays on my massage table and wants all of their grief to come out of their body at once. It doesn't come out all at once. It's a practice. It's an ongoing practice. And I think that if you build your practice where you are right now, from your front line with death and life and living and loving, and you do that, you can address in your personal practice accessibility for your community.
I think,
yeah.
I was just going to say, I think that that's probably the best advice. And we say that a lot, is like, well, where do you stand in your relationship with death? Where do you want to serve? And sometimes it's the end of life. Like me, I like to do ritual with the body and the family. I'm not so much on the dying aspect. I have, but that's where I'm called to, is like the family, the home, the body, and what happens after that. And I think when you find your place in your death work, that's where the magic happens, because you're in the spot that you stand. And I just love, where do you stand in death? Like,
Yeah.
It's such a simple thing, but it's so profound. And it's like, all of you here, I want you to contemplate that and think about it, because if you are going to be a death worker, you can't do all of it. Like you can't, it's impossible to do. So where do you feel your relationship with death? Where do you stand within that?
I can give a
There's
personal
so many
example.
options.
Do you think that people would like a personal example of how I'm addressing accessibility within my practice?
Yes,
Sure, that'd be
please.
great.
Okay, so for example, with the massage therapy, the therapeutic massage that I do, and because I am a person who wants to always obliterate separation, that's the cornerstone of my practice, is like I'm like all those deities that are the deities of no separation, where I'm telling you, you can come for a massage and you can bring your grief too. I'm not going to ask you to leave any aspect of yourself behind. I view wellness as wholeness, and you don't have to abandon anything here. And that's my man. I always wave to him. He's really sweet, cute too. So that's just one, and therapeutic massage is just one aspect of death work that I'm doing. And here's why I'm going to tell you why therapeutic massage, even if it's not just a healing, even if it's beautiful and escapey and spa-like and everything, that is still death work when you're doing it with me in my hands, because you are invited to bring everything with you or leave whatever, you know what I mean? It's a practice like that. So, and I have like multiple different industries that I'm working across doing the same work, right? Which is all death work. And one of the things that I've run into is that because my studio space is the bottom floor of the home as well. So not everybody can be invited into this home. Not everybody can be invited into the studio, because while the home and the studio are separate spaces, there's an interconnection there. And as a single mother who has also survived massive amounts of multiple traumas related to assault, gender-based violence, and every woman that I've ever worked with in this capacity is also dealing with massive amounts of gender-based violence, discrimination, harassment. It's not safe. So I do not allow in any in-service, I don't have any in-studio availability for men folks. Sorry, y'all. If that pisses you off, do everything you can to make this world safer for me and my kids and all of the women that I'm working with. And then we can talk about you coming in here and getting massage therapy, but we are where we are. And this is one thing that I'm interfacing with is that I also need for every single person that's doing this kind of body work with me to feel safe in their body in this space. And that doesn't include always them thinking that any man is going to be able to walk through the door at any moment as a client as well. So like that clientele has to be something that, I do work with men with grief. I do work with men in other capacities, but it's not in studio appointments. I don't do that. So, and that is a way that I have to protect the space. And when they are upset about that at first, then I have to ask them and invite them into that frustration and into that anger and say, there are plenty of ways that you can participate in this business if you really believe in this business and you think there's something here for you or people that you love. And those ways you can interface with my business right now and engage with my business right now until we get more societal transformation happening is you can get up on your front line of whatever you could be doing to make things safer for women and children in this society and globally, because look at what's happening to women and children globally and femme-bodied people globally. So invest in some art. Just buy a massage that's not going to be for you, but that goes directly to a single mom that can't afford one that I work with. It's like, just give us money or do whatever.
Give us money, have strong boundaries, and know where you stand in death.
Yeah, and you don't get to tell me that that's not fair, brother, because we can have buy a 90-minute session, and we will talk about what's not fair. And we'll have a fucking funeral for all this shit that's not fair, And so, there are way, that's just one way. And I'm feisty as fuck. So I do it that way. It's pissing some people off and it's making some people really rise to the occasion. And, but that's just one way that I'm addressing certain things where I'm like, wow, this was really going to limit. I used to view this as like a huge limitation on my client basis. And like, you know, how am I going to keep myself safe? How am I going to be like marketing? Like, you know, marketing is a real thing. You have to let people know who you are and what the fuck you're doing. Like you have to, it's okay. You have to let them know. It feels good to know and be known. Y'all are special people. Y'all are special people in this world. Okay, community. And they need to know who you are, what you're about, and how valuable what you're doing is. And they're not going to know unless you let them know what that value is. Okay. You know, and you can resist and whatever, once you got to get paid a little bit enough to have more wiggle room to resist sometimes.
Yeah. Yes.
I love that you said, you know, you can piss a lot of people off, and then the people that rise to the occasion, those are the people that you want to work with. And I think that that's okay. Like we have lived in a society as women that we constantly have to apologize or say, I'm sorry that, you know, or the opposite. We put ourselves in really uncomfortable situations over and over and over again, because that's how we serve, right? That's what we do. And I think that in this movement, we have so much power already because it's happening. It may feel slow at times, but it's not. Like, we are shifting the way that things are, and we're opening it up for the people who, I mean, we start deaf school by saying like, welcome home. Like, here you are with your people. You may have felt like the black sheep where you are, but now you're welcome. And doing that, like inviting those people into your life, and then telling you, like you said, there's nothing more important than saying, hello, I'm here. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because you can hold all this magic and all these thoughts, but who cares? Because you're sitting in your living room. Like, nobody knows what you can do. And I think that might be the hardest part for a lot of people, is putting themselves out
when
there.
we feel a responsibility, especially when we have come through poverty and we still weave in and out, because let's be real, like economics are not stable. Like that's why we're doing what we're doing. That's why we're in, you cannot be, you can't take the industry out of anything that you're doing at this point of what we're doing in the world right now. You just can't. Shit is industrialized, and we are transforming industries. And in order to transform industries, you have to be in an industry. You have to be in it. The industry is a reflection of the collective. And so if your industry standards are brutal, and death industry standards have been, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If your
Well,
medical
we're seeing
if the
it.
medical industry standards are brutal, if spa and beauty standards are fucking brutal, if whatever they are that you're working at, by all means, step in, let everybody know what your services are as an industry worker, and get fucking paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
Love
Yeah,
it.
there are two ways. It's either infiltrating an existing system, and there's going to be good guys inside those systems too. So connecting with the right people, right? And working that way, and then creating complete alternatives and outlying solutions that run parallel.
And you can do both. You can do both at the same time, right? You could be slowly siphoning the money from the industry.
And that's what's happening. I mean, that's what's happening on a large scale, I think, in death work, is that there are a lot of awesome people who are part of a more corporate funeral landscape that are coming through our classes and have the same shared desire that we have for there to be more autonomy and choice and transparency and compassion and sacredness in death care. And maybe it was even working within the corporate space that showed them that, because most people don't know what it's like until they know what it's like, right? So that's really important. But then so is stuff like we're doing, which is like, hey, you don't have to do that if you don't want. We can DIY this whole thing over here. Come on over, let me show you.
And money is just like anything else. It's energy, it's exchange, it's energy, it's exchange. And we just midwife the money. We just midwife the money from where it's being
where it's being used, spent, and allocated in a way that is not in the interest of elevating human dignity. And then we just midwife it over here, you know, and we say, yo, we got all this money for these fucking good funerals. We got money to like do death how we think death needs to be done. And that is, guess what? Going to include transformative justice. Like now we've got money for it.
Amen.
Well, thank you everyone for coming today. I hope this is an exciting lunch hour. We don't like small talk at our tea, so I hope your hearts are full and your brains are full of information to take you into the afternoon. Thank you.
Thank
for your
you,
time
everybody.
today, Sari.
Thank you,
Sari,
guys.
Thank you guys for being together.
Sari, do you want to
always
link
feels so
your
good.
social media and your website in the chat so people can find you after this if they would like
Yeah.
to?
Yeah, I would love that. I would love that, you know. So and yeah, just such a pleasure to be with everybody, and to see y'all's faces is a true joy. And you know, flowers in our
Thank
hair, no pulse required.
No pulse required. We were talking about, you know, the next level of like who can come in for body work. And one of them is, you don't have to have a pulse. We can still do body work on you. No problem.
You can. That's what postpartum care is all about.
Exactly. Well, thank you,
I love
everybody.
you.
Yes, we love you all.
We love
And
you.
we'll see you next month.